Why aren't big corporations trying to turn the impoverished into middle-class consumers? Shareholders nowadays have insane demands. It's not enough to sell a product, you need to beat last year's record every year. They expect infinite growth. Shelling out for workers' rights and empowering the poor to help facilitate a middle class could work out for them and make them more popular. But it would cost money. They'd have at least a few quarters of losses while they paid for these programs and saw no return, which makes it non-viable for shareholders. Short-term vision. Bonuses are awarded quarter to yearly, so there is no incentive to make it viable in a longer term. They need a fraction of the population to be poor enough to exploit for cheap labor. Seems like the orders of magnitude more effort and especially time to loft a homeless or poverty-level person into a state where they can earn a sustainable income has far less appeal to corporations than cutting to the chase and doing that with middle-class working hogs. All that matters is next quarter. You get your bonus and bug out of there before the long-term consequences come knocking. The single best thing you can do to pump up the economy is bump up minimum wage. Wages are the first things they cut, so it's been a race to the bottom since the 60s. It's so stupid. Anything more than 3 months is the unimaginable future to an investor. Shareholders demand quarterly growth, and while paying great wages and offering comprehensive benefit packages would massively increase quality of life and result in higher, steady profits, it wouldn't take under 3 months to do it. Plus, CEOs don't give a fuck. They are there to collect a paycheck and make sure they get even richer if they fail. I suspect that most incumbent businesses would be very pleased if the market for their products became much larger. They aren't actively trying to make people poor. But what do you actually expect them to do? If the business just starts giving money to people, either directly or indirectly, the most it could plausibly expect is to fully recover the amount it gave away. However, most likely it would recover less than that. It's an obviously losing proposition. So the money needs to come from elsewhere. The state is the obvious option. Companies do lobby for various types of subsidies, benefits, and grants and justify them on the basis that they'll benefit consumers. But even the government's coffers aren't bottomless, and most of the money is coming from someone within the national economic system anyway. Pay your workers more so they can afford my product. No, you pay your workers more so they can afford my product. The amount of difference that a company can make by paying their employees more, which I believe is what you mean, is less than the amount of increased revenue that they would receive. They could pay their employees twice as much, but this is a drop in the bucket compared to the average working class citizen. Most of their customers are not their employees, so they haven't made their customers richer. They have made the average customer very, very slightly richer, and it is the other companies who receive the largest benefit to this change. Hope this makes sense. That's how I think about it anyway, if I'm understanding your question right. How would they accomplish this? It's really confusing. If you build up the poor, they will buy more shit. Or you let everyone get poorer and have riots. Well, how else do you expect them to look all generous by donating to charities that help the impoverished? But really, the corporations aren't there to aid the public, they are there to make money. And yeah, they can help people and elevate them. But there's no guarantee that the people they help will buy their products. If, say, Ford started building housing all around the country, there's no guarantee that the people that buy that housing would exclusively buy Fords, or that people would move their Legend has it Rockefeller eradicated hookworm in the southern US because the disease was making the population too stupid to have enough money to buy his shit. They are, but you're thinking too local. On a global scale, just about everyone in a sexed world nation is a middle-class consumer. Even those on benefits will be buying phones, TVs, etc. What's happening globally is economic improvement in South Asia and parts of Africa. That's where the big growth in consumers is. This reminds me of an essay by Nick Hanauer, subtitled "A Message to My Fellow Zillionaires." The most ironic thing about rising inequality is how completely unnecessary and self-defeating it is. If we do something about it, if we adjust our policies in the way that, say, Franklin D. Roosevelt did during the Great Depression, so that we help the 99% and preempt the revolutionaries and crazies, the ones with the pitchforks, that will be the best thing possible for us rich folks, too. It's not just that we'll escape with our lives, it's that we'll most certainly get even richer. The model for us rich guys here should be Henry Ford, who realized that all his auto workers in Michigan weren't only cheap labor to be exploited, they were consumers too. Ford figured that if he raised their wages to a then exorbitant $5 a day, they'd be able to afford his Model Ts. What a great idea. My suggestion to you is, let's do it all over again. We've got to try something. These idiotic trickle-down policies are destroying my customer base. And ORS 2 HTTPS. Ford also paid his workers much better and turned the wood shavings from all the wooden wheels on his cars into charcoal, and the Kingsford Charcoal Company, which still exists today. Because they are the minority, too much effort for not enough profit. If you lift everyone out of poverty, are they going to buy your product? That's all that matters. If they are buying other people's stuff, you've just paid to help your competitors.